Welcome back everybody to another episode of Skid's Garage. And today I'm going to tackle into the brakes, see if I can get them working. I suspect I'm going to have a few problems. I don't suspect this to go smoothly. Haven't even taken a wheel off to see how bad the brakes are, but going off the brake master cylinder, I'm not going to be surprised if they're in pretty bad condition. So let's get stuck into it and find out how bad they really are. So welcome back everybody, and today I'm tackling into the brakes, starting with the brake master cylinder. As you can see there, it was not in the best of condition. Going to put money on that won't hold fluid, but I wouldn't be surprised if the actual cylinder itself, the seals in it are knackered, because the brake pedal was seized and then given it a few good kicks, it come loose. So I'm going to assume that that killed the seals if they weren't already dead inside. So, but no point trying to rebuild it. I mean, put no seals or anything in it, because obviously that's not going to hold fluid. So I've got this. Come off my red Panelvan, and I'll either use this as a sort of put it on temporarily on this van, or I'll keep it on this van and just buy a brand newie for my red van. Red van's a fair way off from seeing the road again at the moment. That's a very slow project. Shouldn't be, but it is. Yeah, you can still buy these new. Only I didn't want to spend the money at the moment. Trying to get this home as cheaply as possible. So I hate taking parts off other cars to put on other ones. But anyway, so we'll start with the brake master cylinder, and then we'll get the car up. We will check front and rear brakes. I can see them giving me some grief, especially the backs. I know those cylinders tend to wear out, like the seals, and start leaking. So front, I wouldn't suspect I would have too many problems, but who knows. Jesus, look at the damn car. I'm not going to be surprised if I have a lot of trouble with these brakes. So, enough chin wagging. Let's just get stuck straight into it, and let's actually pull these brakes apart and actually see what we're working with. So before I started on the brakes, I wanted to chuck in a temp gauge. So I've just got it wired up a bit dodgily, but the temps are looking pretty good. I do have intentions to replace the water pump at a later date, but that's with the old water pump, and it's holding around 90 degrees. Took it for a quick little just drive around the yard, and yeah, it holds 90 quite well. So I'm pretty happy with the cooling system. I'll get around to wiring that temp gauge up inside so I can keep an eye on it for the drive home. But yeah, I just thought I'd share that. Got that all sorted before I got stuck into the brakes. Alright, so I've got the old master cylinder off. It actually came off a lot easier than what I expected it would. So I've given that a quick spray and clean. And there is a lot of rust and everything in there. So if the rest of the brakes are going to be anything like this, I'm going to have problems with it. And it's not going to be a straightforward, easy job as such, but it is what it is. So out with the old, in with the new. We'll chuck this one in, should just bolt straight on up. Then I will take the wheels off, I'll disconnect the brake lines from the front and rear brakes, and then I'll just blow some air through the lines just to make sure that they're not blocked. I'll just be doing that with my mouth. I've done it before. If not blocked, you'll be able to tell. If blocked, then I'm probably going to be in a bit of trouble because I've got no compressed air. But I'll do that. If they're unblocked, then I start messing about with the front and rear brakes. So giving them a good clean, making sure the pads are alright, or whether I need new ones, whether the cylinders are alright, so on and so forth. But that's where I'm at. So let's chuck this brake master cylinder on, and then see about finding out if these lines are blocked or not. Alright, so got the wheels off. The fronts don't look too bad. So the disc is in good nick. The calipers are intact, but the pads are good too. So plenty of meat and stuff on it. Everything seems alright. So just going to take off the line here and blow it through. Hopefully without breaking anything. That's what I'm scared of. But on this side, no different. The disc's actually in really good nick. Calipers all intact. Pads are good. So again, take that off. Might make sure that the nipple on both sides are good too, not blocked. Theoretically, if the lines are not blocked, fingers crossed, I can just bleed the fronts and we should have working front brakes. Now for the rears, I'm going to knock off the drums and experience what's behind there with yous. So let's grab a hammer and I'm going to knock those off and we're going to see what's behind there together. I haven't had them off yet, so thought it was only fair to share their experience with yous. Alright then, so let's see. Well, that actually feels pretty loose, so hopefully these come off alright. So let's see what's behind there. There we go. So the drum itself, good nick. The pads, plenty of meat on them. Everything looks intact. I know the handbrake works, so obviously all the mechanisms in here stretch out and do as they're supposed to do. My concern is, if I'm going to have any problems, the little cylinder here, if I'm going to have any problems, it's going to be this leaking or seized or something stupid. However, I'm actually very, very surprised on how little amount of corrosion's in here. It actually looks really clean. So, let's go to the other side and fingers crossed it's just as clean. Alrighty, so now on the driver's side. Fingers crossed this is in as good a looking condition as the passengers. Well, already it's a lot tighter than what the other side was. Oh, that does not feel great. Okay, so unlike the other side, this drum is not in very good nick. It's actually very worn down and very bad uneven wear. Obviously good enough for what we want, but it's not in very good shape. Anyway, moving on to the pads. The pads have plenty of meat on them. Oh, this cylinder looks a bit dark, like it's leaked in the past. Fingers crossed that's not the case. Otherwise, very little corrosion, and I'm actually confident I can get this all working. So let's get stuck into taking off. I've got to take off the lines and just try to blow through it myself. Fingers crossed they're not blocked. Otherwise I'm going to have to try to work out a way to overcome that hurdle. If that's all sweet, I'm going to go ahead and attempt to bleed the brakes. So let's crack these lines without breaking them and go from there. Alright, very first hose I tried to disconnect, and exactly what I didn't want to happen bloody well happened. See if I can focus on that little bastard. There we go. See, so what's happened, that nut is supposed to spin and the hose is supposed to spin around the hose, but it's seized, so the hose was moving with the nut, and I was trying to be careful, thinking that it actually was doing what it was supposed to do, but by the time I realized it wasn't, it was too late. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but let's just go about, let's get this out, sort this out, go about all the others, hoping I don't end up in the same situation, because the fronts are replaceable, well, easily replaceable. Just replace this, or I'll see if I've got enough hose to re-flange the end, or don't know, get a new one made. That's doable. If I do the rears, it's a little bit, it's fixable, but not quite as easy. So let's go about getting this all sorted, and fingers crossed this is the only one that gives me grief. Wish me luck. Alrighty, so as expected, we hit roadblocks and hiccups. So here's I'll start with how I got to this point. Over there, 3 broken lines. They were all breaking because I was trying to reroute the tube, because let's have a look at this. That came off my blue Escort, and the actual thing goes into the back. These go in through the top. I've got a funny feeling these are Mark II, not Mark 1. So obviously when I tried rerouting the hose, they were snapping because they're old, they're rusty, they're just, not in great condition, which kind of pisses me off, because I took both the front ones off the blue Escort hoping I could make them work, but snapped them. So there's 2 from the blue one, 1 from this originally. Luckily I've got this. Okay, I'm going to try to make this work. It's a lot softer, it's in a lot better condition, I can reroute it without it snapping, and that's the shape I want. I've reshaped it so that bottom's out there, and if you come over here, that bottom's out there, so that should work. Now, because it come off a Mark II brakes, rear brakes. Funnily enough, I got this off a fella that actually retrieved them from the bin for me. So he was just going to throw them out. I'm glad I do pick up the bits and pieces that people throw out, because little things like this come in handy. So I've just pulled that out. This is the wrong thread or wrong size, I don't know, but that doesn't fit into the front caliper. So what I'm going to do, because I've got to fix that end, is I've got these. So got that goes on one end, that goes on the other. I'm going to remove this one, put that on. I'm going to put that on that end, and I've got a flaring tool at home, so I will give that a whirl. Fingers crossed it works. That will give me a hose for this side. Otherwise, the passenger side will come undone. Luckily, it took a bit of convincing and trying not to get it to break like the other side, but that's out. So is the nipple. All the nipples come out fine. I've blown WD-40 through the caliper, and it's pushed out a whole heap of old brake fluid. On both sides, the nipples the same, they're all clear. I can't blow any air through myself, through the, well, either of the front or rear hoses. On the rears, everything, it's a bit dark back here, but the hoses, they're just so rusted on, I'm not even going to attempt to get them off. I tried, I was just rounding off the nut. I'm running the risk of breaking everything, so can't really see it well there. But anyway, I'm not going to attempt, because I'll just break them, and I don't want that hassle. So what I'm going to try to do, put fluid in, and I'm going to push the fluid through the lines, hoping that fluid squirts out the other end. So that's what I'm going to try. Fingers crossed it works. Can't think of any other way at the moment. So if I can do that and that works, connect up the hoses, see if the cylinders work. I'm talking more rears, because the front drivers, I don't know how I can isolate that so I can work on 3 of the 4 brakes, but I'll see if I can windle something up. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Push some fluid through, hopefully I'll get it through to the other end, then connect them up to the cylinders and calipers and go from there. Fingers crossed that works. So wish me luck. I'm not having a lot at the moment. Okay, so it's getting dark, so I'm going to just show you where I'm up to before it gets too dark to film. So I'm reassembling this side. Now this cylinder, as suspected, was blown, so it was just squirting fluid everywhere. I do have, I've already put it in, so I do have a new one. It's a bit hard to see there, it's getting dark. So I happen to have 2 spare ones for the blue Escort, but that's a while away from being done, so I've just used them. Now the problem I had with this was there is a line that runs from this side to the other side. There's only one bleed nipple for the back brakes. On both ends they broke, so I need a new line that runs from this cylinder and runs across to the other cylinder. Other than that, I'm going to reassemble everything, and the rear brakes will be sweet. So just need to replace that one line, which is going to be a pain in the ass. Otherwise everything else is sweet. So on this side, that's all been reassembled with a new cylinder. That's the old one there. I don't know if that was bad or not, but I had 2 new ones, so I thought bugger it, just throw the new one in there. So that's all sweet. I just need to adjust them, and yeah, we're all good. That'll be the rears done. Just need that rear brake line, so hopefully I can get a new one, whether it's a new one made or get a second handy or something, I don't know, but I'll just take the old line out, put the new line in, connect it up, bleed them. So yeah, the rears are good. Front, I've got fluid going to the caliper, so they should bleed alright. Same with the other side. I've got fluid going to the caliper, so it comes out of here. Obviously this is the side that's got the broken line. Got a new line that I'm going to make do with, or I'll just get a new front as well because I need a new rear. Don't know yet, I'll work that out, but I'm getting fluid to the calipers, so yeah, unless there's an issue with the calipers, the front will be sweet too. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to finish reassembling this side, adjust everything, then all we need is a new rear line, that front driver's line, then we should be good to bleed the brakes, and I don't see why we wouldn't have working brakes. So there we go. I'll finish today off here and recommence on another day, hopefully with a car with working brakes. So anyway, that's where I'm at. Alrighty, so it's a new day, and this is going to be my plan of attack. Hopefully I can get as close as possible to finishing this job off, but I've made a new, using some old line I had laying around. I've flared the ends of these and put the nuts and bolts on it. So that's the front. That should theoretically jump straight in, fix that up. So however it goes, I've test fitted this on the red Panelvan and it works. So hopefully there's nothing random happens and it starts leaking. Otherwise, the rear, where I'm up to with the rear. Okay, so the ends. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a good shot of it. Where am I? Okay, so that's one of them. Okay, here. So because the nuts were rusted on, this one actually broke off. The other side I had to cut off. I'm going to see about reflaring the pipe that's on here now with a new connection on it on both ends. I hope that this pipe's not too rusty. I've noticed working with the old rusty pipes, it doesn't always tend to go to plan. So hopefully I can stretch this pipe out enough to meet the little rear cylinders. I can reflare the pipe, put new connectors on, and yeah, we should be all good. I'm thinking I might actually take this hose out and do the flaring with the pipe removed, just to ensure I get a good flare, because I've learnt also you need a good flare. If it's not quite square, it tends to not work the way it should. So that's the plan on the rear, and these are the pieces I've got. So I've got 2 unions and a bit of extra old line, just in case my new connections don't quite reach, but I've had a quick look. I reckon I can make it work. Little tool I've picked up to cut the pipes, and my flaring kit. So it worked well with that, and I've been using my little cutter. Seems to work well. So on paper, it theoretically looks like it's going to be an easy, straightforward job, but yeah, nothing's easy on this van. So worst case scenario, I can always borrow the rear brake line from my red van. I don't want to, but if that's what it takes to get these brakes working and verify that the car has brakes, so be it. Otherwise, let's just get stuck straight into it. Let's start on the front, getting that pipe put in, flaring the rears, getting those connections on, and yeah, then we get stuck into bleeding the brakes. So let's get into it. Okay, so that is the front brake line done. It's in the caliper, runs across and joins into the flex line, and that actually was super easy. That fit like an absolute glove, as I would have expected considering I've test fitted it on the red van, but that went really smoothly. So that should be the front done. Now let's migrate on to the rear. Okay, so I've got the rear brake line out and just up against the one out of my red van, and there's plenty of bends and stuff in it, so I'm going to be able to straighten it out and make up the distance if need be. But all I need to do is cut a nice clean end off so it's nice and square, and reflare this onto it on either end. The pipe is quite rusty to the point I would not be surprised if it's even thinned out a tad, but it's going to do the job. If I need to straighten it out in any way to make up any distance, this section here runs up and over the diff. Just picture the diff kind of sitting right here, and if I need to make up distance, all I'm going to do is straighten that out a little bit, make it run across the back of the diff, and that should work. That is my plan anyway. It's my plan of attack. But let's get stuck into trying to reflare and put these nuts and stuff on. Fingers crossed it works. Fingers crossed I don't have too many issues with the pipe. But I'll get right back with you, and I will hopefully show you a finished product. Okay, so this is where I'm up to. So I have put a nice squared off cut, as you can see there. So it's nicely squared off. Cleaned the ends. Is it going? There we go. And put the nut on. So now all I've got to do is flare it. Over here, same deal. Tidied it up a little bit. Put a nice end on it. Fingers crossed they will flare okay. Fingers crossed I'll have a working rear brake line. Wish me luck. We'll see how this goes. I thought I'd try to share as much of this process flaring this hose as, try to cover as much as I can. So obviously the hose, the nut, make sure the nut's on before you start flaring. And then I've got this bar. I've put it through the hole. That's the size of the line. Then, where is my thing here? So you got all these different sizes for different size hose, internal diameter. I've got mine there. So once the hose is through, I've put that through the hose. And then I've got this clamp. I'll clamp that down till it's flush, and that'll be my first flare. After that, I then take that black part out, leave the hose connected into this, and then this flare here, I'll then run that down and make my double flare. So I'll try to show you my progress as I do this. So, update on the rear brake line. And in short, I chucked a tantrum. For whatever reason, it will not. So obviously using this, it's supposed to clamp into here and be a tight fit. That way I can push that piece down with that that tool I was showing earlier, and which flares the pipe. I reckon this pipe's that damn rusty that it's lost a bit of diameter in it, because after cleaning it, I reckon it's just not fitting tight enough in here, and it slips on through. So as I apply pressure to try to flare it, it slips on through. It does the same on the other end as well. In fact, this end was a lot worse, but if you have a close look, it's all pitted. It's all pitted. It's just in really bad shape. So I chucked a tantrum, had a little hissy fit, and just went about putting in that line. So here it is. This is the one from my red Panelvan. So that's all mounted in. It is blocked. I can't blow air through it, but hopefully I'm just about to put some brake fluid into the master cylinder and push it through. Fingers crossed, with that pressure behind it, it'll just push the crap through. And then I'll go about bleeding the system. So, fingers crossed the majority of the problems are dealt with, but we'll see how this blockage works out. But this job I'm starting to get a bit sick of. I hate doing, just hate doing all this. So anyway, enough complaining. Let's go about trying to unblock this line and bleed the system. Okay, so with this job, I am bashing my head against a brick wall. This line that was used for the red van, for whatever reason, it's now blocked. I cannot unblock it. I am using this little compressor, and I am just connecting it to a rubber hose to the actual line. I'm currently messing about with the front lines, and I can't unblock that brake line. I've connected up to here, so I reckon this one here is for the rear. That is clear. That'll blow air through easy. And then the cylinders are brand new, so they should be sweet. So the problem is with the brakes that are holding me up is this damn line. The original line, I can't flare because it is just not clamping into my tool properly. I'm at a loss at the moment. It's starting to really piss me off, this job. So that's where I'm at with the rear. This line I can't flare because it's just been an arsehole. This is blocked because it's an arsehole. So neither of those lines are any good for me at the moment. I've managed to actually pressurize this line to 100 pounds of pressure, and still nothing will come through the other end. So it's a good solid block. And with the fronts, I can put 100 pounds of pressure onto here and nothing unblocks, with both lines on the front disconnected. So considering both are blocked, I'm assuming it is, if I can see it down there, you can kind of see it. It's right there on the body there. There's I guess a union, a junction, whatever, where the one line goes in and then splits to two lines. So it feeds both of the front brakes. I'm assuming because both lines are as blocked as each other, it's something from that union up to this pipe here. I'm going to guess that probably the union's knackered, blocked up with crap. So this job's not as straightforward as I thought it was going to be. So I'm just going to tackle into this, slowly work my way backwards until I can find where the blockage is, try to unblock it and go from there. So I'll give that a whirl. With any luck, I'll get this all unblocked, and hopefully I don't chuck too many more tantrums. So wish me luck, and I'll be hopefully back with yous with a success story. Okay, so I think I'm making good progress with the front. I removed that junction or T-piece or whatever you want to call it for the front brakes, and this end here connects to the master cylinder. and I just put my lips around it, giving it a good blow, and both air come out of this side and air come out of there, so without any effort. So that's definitely wasn't blocked. Then this line here that runs from that T piece to the passenger side brakes, I put my lips onto this side, blew through it, and yeah, no blockage. So, and then I knew, well, on the other side, I know that this part that goes from the soft line to the caliper is good, because that's the part I made. This one took off, not blocked, worked fine, which then brought me to the rubber lines, and they were blocked. So to unblock them, it was a challenge. Using this, I was then just made up my own little contraption, connected it to it, and I was building up pressure in it, and using an Allen key, oh, it was this one here, doesn't matter, but you get the idea. Using an Allen key, I was just running it down, and I reckon the blockage was somewhere around here on both of them. So it's at the beginning. I think the hose actually goes from one size into another size. Like there must be some sort of where they join, and I reckon that's where the blockage was on both ends, on both hoses. Both hoses were just as blocked as each other, but they're now unblocked, and there should be no issues with the front brakes. So I'm going to move along and put this all back together and see if I can bleed the front brakes. Alright, so I finally had a bit of success. The fronts hopefully will bleed alright, but I've got everything back together. Everything is unblocked for the front. The back is just got one blockage in that rear line that runs across the diff, but that's all full of fluid, and my lines gravity bled. So I took the nipple out and the fluid started coming out of it. No leaks. I fixed a leak on that. I just had to tighten it up a little bit more, but that's not leaking anymore. There's fluid all through the lines and comes out the nipple. Exact same on the other side. So that's all back together. And the culprit for the front were the two rubber lines, but they're all clear now. Everything else was already clear. For the rear, everything's all back together, but it gravity fed to, well, this side on here is blocked because the fluid won't make it through the pipe. This side here, the fluid will make it to the cylinder and then come out the other side of the cylinder. So it gravity bled itself through this cylinder here. So theoretically, if this stupid hose here that runs across the diff wasn't blocked, I'd have fluid going to the other cylinder as well. And unfortunately, I couldn't use this one, which is unblocked, because I was having trouble flaring the ends. I'll take this home. I will have a play around with it, see if I can flare it at home. Might have a little bit more luck at home. I've got more tools and stuff to work with. But yeah, that's a little bit of a bummer. But that's where I'm at. The fronts have gravity bled themselves. The rear, one of the rear cylinders have gravity bled themselves. Got a block in the rear line. Otherwise, all good. I'll fix that rear line somehow and get fluid to the other cylinder. Then I'll do a proper bleed, so long as the front calipers don't give me any grief. I should have brakes. So that's the only other thing that I haven't messed around with, is the front calipers. But I doubt they've got any problems, but we'll just have to wait and see. So anyway, that'll see me to the end of today. I've got to head off and got other things I've got to do, so which sucks, but it is what it is. So I have to walk away from this a little earlier than I'd like, but that's where I'm at with the brakes. So yeah, until I get around to making another trip here, we should be closer to actually doing a proper bleed and actually having brakes. So back at trying to get these brakes sorted. This is the rear brake line that I took out of the orange Panelvan, and I've flared the ends. As you can see, the condition of the pipe is crap. I had difficulty flaring it. The amount of length I took out of this pipe made it quite difficult to, well, was pushing the boundaries of being too short. See, I flared that one as well. Got the new connections and stuff on it. I have test fitted this on the diff from the red Panelvan, and it does fit. So what I'm going to do, take out the line that's under here. Where is it? This one here. Take that out and try fitting up the one I've reflared, and fingers crossed I can get it all in and working, because this one here is blocked and last visit I had trouble unblocking it. So let's chuck in the one that I know is not blocked. Fingers crossed my flares are good enough and seal, but we're going to find out. So let's pull this line out, let's chuck this other one in, let's see if the flares seal, and let's see if we can bleed the system. Okay, so I've got that brake line in. It's hard to see under here, but it just runs directly across over the leaf spring into that cylinder. Just a straight pipe. Not ideal, because it's supposed to run over top of the diff and whatever else, but that's the best I can do at the moment with what I've got. I have fixed all the leaks, so that was leaking a little bit, just the top one, and tying that up, it doesn't seem to leak anymore. And I took the bleed nipple out of this one, pushed the brakes, and all that fluid shot out. So I think my rear brakes are ready to be bled. Check the fronts are all seem dry as well, so it doesn't look like they're leaking. And it's been a couple of weeks since I've my last visit, and the reservoir hasn't dropped, so I think I'm in good shape. So let's go about bleeding these brakes. Okay, so I'm going through the motions of bleeding these brakes now. So all connected up. I've got this one person bleed kit. So all I just got, like, I'm pretty sure this just has a one-way valve and stuff. So as you push it, the fluid will run up into the bottle and not let any air back through the system. I'll keep doing that until there'll be no air bubbles in this hose here. So let's go about bleeding these brakes, and let's hope it's all home stretch from here. Alright, so a couple of pushes of the brake pedal. You can see that hose there. It doesn't have any bubbles in it, so there's no air in the system. It's hard to see, it looks like the tube is actually empty, but trust me, there's brake fluid in it. So I'm fairly confident those rear brakes are bled. So all that's left for the rear is to adjust the drums, and the rears are done. So let's migrate to the front and hope that I can bleed them just as easily. Okay, and the front passenger's brake is now bled. Again, no air in the hose. I had to improvise a little bit here because this nipple is quite a bit bigger than the rear one. So I was hoping this wasn't going to leak any air with my improvisation, and it seems to have not leaked any air. So, airtight system, all bled. So, let's move on to the front drivers. And that's the driver's side done. No air in the system, bled really well. So, fingers crossed that's it. Fingers crossed I've got brakes. So, got to go readjust the rear drums, and we should have functioning brakes on my orange panel van. Alright, so I need to adjust these shoes so that they make, so it just makes ever so slight kind of contact with the drums, whether that's right or wrong. That's kind of just how I do it. So this one I haven't touched yet, but there is a bit of wear on this drum, and if I try sliding it on, it feels firm, like it slips on nicely, but it just feels it's making contact. It's making contact, but it's like it still slides on and off easy. And as I turn it, I can hear it making contact. You can hear it sort of just sliding across, but there's no excessive resistance. So I'm going to leave that one as is, and I'm just going to pump a heap of brake cleaner in here and cool this side a day. So let's go on to the other side and see if that needs any adjusting. Okay, so this is a passenger's rear and already I can tell as you slip it on, it's not making any contact. When I turn it, there is zero contact. So what I want to do is do some fine adjustments and have it, like the other side I reckon is pretty much near perfect for how I like it. So I'm going to do the same here. And not sure if you can see it. Yeah, you might be able to. But there's a little thing here with a screwdriver. I'm just going to tap it, which is this spinny thing that's on a thread. And all it does is pushes this shoe out, like I just pulled it out of place there. It'll pull this shoe out, make more contact with all these springs and everything. How it's supposed to work is that they're supposed to work together, and when this one's pushed out, it's supposed to sort of like just balance everything out. But we'll just do some fine adjustments, push the pads out a tad until when I slip it on and off. Now that I messed with it, it doesn't want to go on. So when I put it on and off, I'll feel ever so slight touch like I did on the other side, or even like just get a slight touch and then wind it back a tad. So yeah, so I'll get stuck into that, and once that's done, again I'll just pump 10 tons worth of brake cleaner through here, clean it all up and chuck the wheels on, and I've got brakes. Okay, so here I'm going to wind it back a little bit because I'll slip it on. It slips on and off. Okay, well, a little bit too tight for what I like. And then once it's on, oh, you know what? I actually think that's alright. I'm just going to leave it at that. That actually slips on and off. I can feel it making ever so slight contact. I can hear it making slight contact, but only a little bit. I think that's good. I'm going to call that done. Now, clean it all up with brake cleaner, put the wheels on, and job done. Alright, so my orange panel van now has brakes. So that is a huge milestone forwards in hopefully taking it for a drive. So I've got a deadline, well not a deadline, but I've got something February I would like it on the road for, but we will see how we go because I wanted it on the road last February. It's now September. So fingers crossed and we'll see how we go. But brakes are done. Huge milestone done. So from here, I'm going to do a service. And yeah, from there, it's pretty much just little things. But yeah, brakes done. Onto a service and see how bad this 30-plus-year-old oil is. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see yous all in the next episode of Skid's Garage.